All right, hey, this is Jesse with Create This. This is probably going to be the last video in my series about how to build my solar generator battery. Today we are reinstalling components. Let's see, I have a few components like these breakers, and these just kind of slide down into the hole right here like this. And then I've got things like this Victron battery monitor, and that goes down into the hole like that. And then you screw on the bottom ring there to lock it in place. And then this guy goes down in there like that. And that's the main battery connector. But first, what I'd like to do is we need to create some bus bars, some copper bus bars. Kind of measuring from this part of the battery right here, this lip, up to what looks to me like the flat of the connector there. And it looks to me like it's about 4¼ inches. There's my copper bar, so this is what it's going to look like. And what I've done, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I have marked 4¼ inches there with a carbide tip tool. And then I've marked about an inch above that. I believe it's an inch. Let me look. Yeah, it's a little less than an inch. It's about 15/16. I've marked about 15/16 above that. And that's going to be the tab that actually gets the hole drilled in it and seats on this terminal post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this on this upper line right here, and with probably a hacksaw. And then I'll put this in the vise, the metalworking vise, and I'll hammer it so that this is an L shape. So this little tab is going to fold downward so that it's at a right angle here, like this. And that'll be the little tab that I put right there. I'll drill a hole after I bend it. So let's get started with the cutting, I guess. All right, let's cut this guy off. So it's probably pretty hard to see because the light's not great, but the line is right here. So I'm just gonna cut straight down just to make sure that I get a square cut. Let me mark this a little more. There we go. Kept it fairly close to the line. I deviated a little bit at the end there, but no big deal. At this point, what I like to do is I like to clean it up a little bit with a file. Mostly just want to clean up the edges. Doesn't really matter how close it gets to the line. Now let's take this to the blacksmithing vise and we'll bend it. All right, so what I've done here is it's really hard to see, but I've lined up the bottom line here with the blacksmithing vise. This is just soft copper, so it bends pretty easily. I don't know, if you can use just any vise, but this style of vise is designed to be hammered on, so it makes this pretty easy. And then basically, all I do, if I remember correctly, is I just hammer it down. Just want a 90-degree angle. That's pretty close. I think that'll do. And now that we've done that, we are ready to drill holes. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we are going to drill a hole in the top. And so in order to do that, to keep the drill bit from slipping, I'm gonna kind of try to find the center of this piece. And I'm gonna put a punch right in the center. So, right about there-ish, perhaps. I'm just eyeballing it. You could measure it if you wanted to. And then just hit it with a hammer. Oop. Just want to make enough of a divot that the drill bit won't walk around when you start drilling. All right, and the next step is to drill out the top here. And I'm sure there are lots of different ways to do this. You could probably do it with a fancy metalworking vise and drill press, or whatever. I just use a hand drill and a woodworking clamp. Put it in the woodworking clamp, put it on drill mode, go to town. So this is a 5/16 drill bit. I think this is the correct size for those DC breakers, the Blue Sea Systems DC breakers. If you're doing this for the Victron shunt on the negative side, this is the positive side. If you're doing it on the negative side, you'll use a much larger drill bit. I think you use a 3/8 for that. And so let's see how this goes. And that guy is just slinging chips everywhere, so I'm gonna get some safety glasses. Whew. That last bit is always my least favorite. Cool chips you get out of that, huh? All right, so at this stage, what you want to do is take your DC breaker and you just want to make sure that the bus bar fits pretty well in there. You want to make sure it doesn't, collide or anything. You can always file off this end if it does, or cut it with a Sawzall or something. Not a Sawzall, sorry, a hacksaw. I use a file for this, but whatever. So you just want to make sure it fits. And then once that fits, you can take your breaker and just hold your bus bar there, kind of slide it down in there, and this should fit as well. You shouldn't have a whole lot of gap between the terminal here. I've got a little bit, but not a whole lot. The bolt here will draw them together, so I'm not super worried about that. You also want to kind of make sure that these surfaces are flat. If you've got any, chips or anything sticking up or ridges, you want to file those down because you want to make good contact with the mating surfaces. So at this point, what you can do is you can kind of, I don't remember exactly how I marked this last time, but you basically want to mark this piece so you know where the hole's going to be. It probably doesn't have to be perfect, but it kind of needs to be perfect. So that gives me kind of a rough mark of right there. I feel like that was at an angle, so I'm gonna go a little higher. Probably my circle is gonna be right there. So now I will punch that and drill it. All right, so here's the punch. This one always makes me nervous because I'm kind of guessing. All right, I believe this one is also 5/16, but we can always go back and drill it out with a larger diameter if we need to. Should probably have a plexiglass shield on my camera when I'm doing this. There we go. There we go. All right, and no one is more surprised than I am that that actually works. There's our connection there. I could probably remove a little bit more from the bottom of this piece so that it fits up against this terminal a little bit better. Or I can just try clamping it down and seeing if it draws it toward it. I think it probably will. But top part is snug in the breaker, and bottom part is, you know, the bolt is actually going through on the battery terminal, so that is a good install. The only thing left to do is tighten that down. And again, I'm always surprised when this bottom one lines up. One of these days it's not going to line up, and then I'm going to have to enlarge the hole or something, but it actually worked that time, so yay me. And then the next one that we're going to do is the negative terminal, and that'll be pretty similar. All right, the next thing that we have to do here is install the negative shunt. What I like to do for this is I make sure that the SB350 connector is in place so that I know that I'm not going to be putting it somewhere where it's going to interfere. And then I basically hold it up like this. And then you also have to align it in this plane. So you want your bus bar to be in pretty much the same place as the terminal. A little difficult to see. Okay, so here's the terminal right here. We could have it here, but then it's not in line with the terminal. So what you want is you want it kind of over a little bit so that it's right above the terminal. And just sight down that area until it's in roughly the right place. I think I ended up with mine right about there. And then what I do is I take a pencil and I trace around the outside, and then we'll take this top off and screw it down so that when we're testing out the bus bar, we can test it out without the top in place. All right, so this is pretty much what that looks like with the top removed on the bottom side. And my marks were a little slanted like this, so I'm just kind of straightening that out by eyeball. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to drill my holes. Just don't want to go all the way through because then you'd see the holes on the faceplate. There we go, negative shunt installed. All right, so I just have the top resting there now. It's not screwed back on, but the negative shunt is in place. And so this is not even close to the same height as the original. So this is the positive bus bar, and you can see that it goes way higher than where we actually needed to connect. So we've got to measure this again. Fun. So I think this is the way I do this usually. We're just going from there to there. And so my ruler has a bad side and a good side for various reasons. The inside is just not square and the outside is much more square when it was manufactured. But looking at that, looks to me like we are at 3 and a little more than 3 1/4, 3 5/16, looks like. So 3 1/4, we could call it 3 1/4 because the terminal rises a little bit. It's got some of this epoxy stuff, so I think 3 1/4 is a pretty good measurement for the height. And then yeah, it's going to be like 15/16 for that part. So 3 1/4 up, 15/16 over. All right, and on the copper, that basically looks like this. So we've got 3 1/4 roughly. Depends on which side of the bar you're on because it's not a perfectly straight cut. And then 15/16 here. And as you can see, it's going to be folded on this line right here. So as you can see, it's quite a bit shorter than the positive bus bar. That's about it. So let's go ahead and cut. Trying real hard not to hit my camera lens there. My partner Tracy is working on her car. She's a little frustrated right now. All right, yeah, that looks pretty good to me. think that'll work. All right, I bent this one 2 more times. Basically the same procedure as before, except I would lift it up a little bit and then hammer it down again, because it was just still, this part was too short and this part was too tall. So I don't get it right every time. Hopefully that doesn't affect the electrical conductivity too much. It's a little thinner, but I think it'll be okay for my purposes. So let's punch some holes here, or punch some places where holes are going to go at least. Again, I'm just trying to put it in the middle. It's pretty close. Now we can drill it out. And this time I am using a 13/32 because it's supposed to be a 3/8 hole, but I just don't think that a 3/8 is big enough. So let me get safety glasses. And there it is installed, top screw anyway. So now we just need to locate this bottom one. And same thing there. Just kind of trace it out with a scratcher. All right, and there is the negative bus bar installed. Again, I'm always surprised when things actually line up properly, but that one did. That's going to be nice. So now the only thing left to do for this entire solar generator setup is install the SB350 connector and crimp the cables. So I will do that probably in yet another video. I thought I was done, but I keep thinking that I'm done with this series, but I think I'll do another video on crimping the cables. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe.